Well, we're back on the road again. We're heading to Lightning Ridge. What a quirky town Lightning Ridge is. Can't wait to get there. But before that, we venture off into a place called Carinda Hotel. Now, prior to planning this holiday, I had no idea what Carinda Hotel was well known for. But boy, what a quirky little hotel this is. And isn't it famous for something that no one could have predicted back in the day would actually occur in this remote hotel in the middle of nowhere? Let's get into it. So we're on the road travelling to Carinda Hotel, and the countryside's changing dramatically. It's just beautiful countryside, and you're travelling along and you're thinking, I can't remember the last traffic light that I actually had to stop at. I'm thinking, must have been Toowoomba. It's so fantastic to escape the rat race. Love it. The Carinda Hotel is tucked away in a little town called Carinda, and it has a unique story, something that hasn't really happened in Australia before. You see, in 1983, David Bowie wanted an iconic Aussie pub, a remote Aussie pub, to film the music video for Let's Dance, his new song coming out in 1983, and he chose this location, this very location, to make a bold artistic statement. In classic David Bowie form, he was pushing some boundaries, and he particularly wanted this pub and Indigenous Australians to be in this musical clip. It was classic racial commentary, and it caused a stir back in the day. Since this film clip was filmed and released, this pub has become a pilgrimage for Bowie fans worldwide, and I loved it. It was really, really cool. They still have the wall where David Bowie leant up against in this film clip, Let's Dance. It's been taken over by new management, Peter and Maz, and they were so hospitable when we arrived, and they shared stories, talked about its history and their plans for what they're going to do for this pub as they rejuvenate it into a classic modern historical pub, dare I say. So when planning our trip, we decided that we wanted to avoid the caravan parks, and with a little research on Lightning Ridge, we settled on Carinya Station, and we're glad we did. Carinya Station is a working station just out of town, and honestly, it feels like stepping into another time. It has wide open plains, rusted gates, an old shearing shed, and a sense of history throughout. Carinya's got that peaceful, off-grid vibe, bird song, starry skies, and a sense of isolation despite being so close to town, which is exactly what we needed. If you're chasing real outback calm, with a splash of Aussie history, Carinya Station is seriously worth the detour. We only stayed in Lightning Ridge a couple of days, and truly, I think you need a week to explore this town to do it justice. But that being said, we all agreed we wanted to do the Chambers of the Black Hand tour, and I'm so glad we did, as it sums up Lightning Ridge in many ways. A town based on raw, hard work, a quirkiness, and a sense of creative art around every corner.
Well, what are you doing?
So, welcome down to Chambers of the Black Hand. My name's Alan, and I'll give you a bit of a spiel on it and let you go and explore it all yourselves.
Thank you.
First up, though, we do ask you to be conscious of your presence and respectful of our carvings, not to lean up against, handle, touch or interfere. It is only a soft sandstone on this level, and they are quite fragile. We also encourage you to take as many photos as you like. We recommend no flash. There's quite a bit of silica in the sandstone. Bounces back at you. Yeah. The gentleman that created all this, his name's Ron Canlon. He's a pommy. Actually, he's a nice bloke, though. He started his working life in the Royal Marines, where he's on the Special Boat Services. If you don't know nothing about them, that's the pointy end of the stick. They're right in there. From there, he went on to being a deep-sea diver off the north coast of Scotland, working off oil rigs down to a depth of about 500 feet. In that job, you're either sitting around waiting to go down or come up. And he don't care to wait. So he'd have a block of wood and a pocket knife, and he'd whittle and carve. That was pretty well his training for everything you'll see through here. He's had no formal education on painting or artwork, on sculpturing or carving. All you see here is pure raw talent. Got out to Australia, 1980. Heard about the ridge. Ooh, must see. Got here at Christmas time. Hottest part of the year. Yeah. Mad Dog's an Englishman. He fitted in really well. Ended up that he purchased the claim here. Now, the mine level itself is another 20-odd feet below us. It had been established prior to the First World War, and it had become known as the Black Hand Mine when back in the 1940s, that sign was put up on the corner of the claim with the finger pointing down the 3-mile road to the Castlereagh Highway. Roads and highways, yeah, back then that was a bit of a joke. They were nothing much more than cattle pads and goat tracks. People were becoming geographically embarrassed. And this was on the main access in and out of town. So the sign became a prominent landmark. It's still up there. They've moved it over a bit. She's under the trees now, looking rather sad and dilapidated. What some might say second-hand. But she's still up there. Nothing to do with the mafia. Ron worked the claim here for 27 years. In that time, he made a total of $25,000. Whoopee-doo-dah, 5/8 a bugger all. He did, though, have quite a few people requesting to see through the claim, and he thought that might have been a way of supplementing the income, get into the tourist side of it. One small glitch though, they all balked at coming down 60 feet of hanging ladders. So he discussed with a golfing mate, plays golf 3 days a week, the idea of putting in a set of stairs. Now, being Australia, you can imagine the comeback on that. You wouldn't know what you're doing. You wouldn't know where you're going. You're going to end up in the neighbour's claim. Another bloke threw $100 down. Get it done in 6 months, you can have that. Ha, ha, ha. So with 2 buckets, a shovel and a jackhammer, he started at the top, working below his feet. Yeah, exactly thinking about that one. Anzac Day 97, he bottomed out right on point. He knew exactly where he was, what he was doing. In 5.5 months, picked up that $100, didn't he? Yeah, I wasn't going to miss that. On the way down, he come through this soft sandstone level. Opal forms below the sandstone. So at this point, you're actually inside that band. It is not an opal level, okay? But he thought to himself on the way down, that's a better spot to wait than in the mine. When he bottomed out, he come back up to stair 84 and shot a drive across an old hand-dug shaft just there, opening up a natural air vent, a natural airflow. Keeps this level somewhere between about the 14 to 18 degrees, so quite comfortable. Opened up the room, this is going to be the lunch room. So he'd come out and mine of a morning, he'd then come up here to have lunch. From his tucker bag he'd pull an old bone-handled Sheffield steel butter knife, very similar to that one. That's what it would have looked like when he first started. The original is on display in the showroom. Now after making lunch he'd get rather bored and he started to scratch at the walls with a knife. How soft and easy that is to carve. So the first thing he done was a welcome ribbon. Welcome in. Then he went on and done his anchor chains. And then the badge for his unit, that rope around the dagger, quite a bit finer detail type work. And by the time he finished that, he had a good understanding of sandstone. And away he went. As he was doing all these little creatures here, he'd put opal chips in the eyes. Right? Now in the low light when it first opened, this room used to wink and glow and sparkle. Really, it was very pretty. But people thought they'd get something for nothing, so out with the car keys and started gouging them out. In the process, damaging the carvings. You don't deserve that. So he ripped them all out and just hammered in a few old rusty nails. As he filled up the room here, the next step, send a drive down to the next old hand-dug shaft. There's a few along here. And by linking them up, you keep that natural ventilation going, keeping it nice and fresh. To a pommy though, this isn't a room, it is a chamber. Hence the name Chambers of the Black Ant Mine. As you get along, you'll notice the level of professionalism really rise as he works out how to get the best out of sandstone to present. There are 26 points of interest on your map. You'll get down to number 12. It's a big round chamber and it's got our 3 Buddhas in it. They took him about 3 months. They are quite large. The Dalai Lama sent out his Zagundan minions. They have blessed our Buddhas. As you're leaving that chamber, there is a sneaky little left turn. If you miss that, you're coming back over the same country you travelled. It is designed to be on a circuit and work your way around. Get confused anywhere, the exit signs will get you out. There is somewhere north of 800 carvings through here. 22 years of work and all done by one bloke, Ron Canlon. He dug it, he carved it, he painted it. It was only after we opened it to the public that the fun police come down and said we've got to put in meshing and props and all this sort of thing that we've done for him. He's now 85, retired to Batlow. Plays golf 3 days a week. Of an evening he now carves emu eggs, and they're very popular. We sell quite a few here. And if he's got nothing else on, he'll pull out a chainsaw. 85 chainsaw, yeah, you get concerned, wouldn't you? But he does that chainsaw carving up logs and stumps. You ever down around Batlow, go out to the golf course and take a look at what he's created. Where's there.
That? Where's Batlow?
Between Sherman and Tumbarumba, southwest of Canberra, on the foot of the Snowy Mountains. Okay. As one bloke said, it's wet and cold, pretty much like Derbyshire, where he come from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Down 10 metres into an old opal mine, the walls come alive with hundreds of carvings and sculptures. Everything from Egyptian gods and dinosaurs to superheroes and Aussie icons, all hand-carved into sandstone by one man, Ron Canlon. It's quirky, creative and kind of surreal. Every corner feels like a hidden treasure, and the deeper you go, the more incredible it gets. Amongst all of that incredible artwork are 40 little Where's Wally's carved into the sandstone, and it is an incentive for the children to see if you can find all of those Where's Wally's. I only spotted 2, but in fairness, I was only told about it right at the end. It is a working opal mine. It does have a tourist shop at the end. That is where you exit from. In saying that, they weren't pushing in any shape or form. There's some incredible opal jewellery there, and it is definitely worth a look. Right in the heart of Lightning Ridge, it is impossible to miss John Murray's artwork, which brings the outback to life. Bold colours, quirky characters, and the unmistakable Aussie humour. From giant emus to surreal desert scenes, his art isn't just eye-catching, it's become part of the town's identity. John Murray put Lightning Ridge on the artistic map, and it's now one of the coolest little galleries in outback Australia. It's free to enter, but unfortunately, you can't take any photos inside this gallery. While we're at Lightning Ridge, we visited the Artesian Spa several times just to warm up our bodies, particularly after a long drive, but also it was pretty cold in Lightning Ridge when we were there. I didn't record any footage of the time that we were there. That's largely because there was lots of children at the Artesian Spa and I just felt it wasn't appropriate. But don't give this location a miss in terms of Artesian Spas. It was a fantastic location. I'm going to leave you with some footage with the pub and the scrub. Really quirky sort of pub out in the middle of nowhere. Definitely worth a visit. And also the house made out of bottles and some of my photos. You may have noticed that I love my photography, and going out west, actually to be honest, any sort of travel, it really sparks your creative energy, and I was really blessed to have some fantastic opportunities to take photos. Carinya Station, we celebrated our 31st wedding anniversary there with some wonderful friends, and I captured some footage under the stars of this particular event. Until next time, safe travels. We'll see you in the next episode.